Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Monday, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. You know, as I start this video, I'm kind of reminded that there are a few more names that need to be thrown on the sponsor list, because, I don't know guys, I talk about how the Patreon is literally just like a backup support for the channel, and every time I do that, people join it. Anytime I mention it has nothing to do with trying to get any of you to use the Patreon, I do the thank you, I explain why it's there and how it's very low effort and is not like something that needs to be massively supported. For some reason, y'all decide you just want to do it whenever I do that, even when I'm basically telling you it's not really a high value option, it's just an option that's there. So I don't have anything to say in particular here at the start. I'm just going to do my Patreon roll call, and I just want to make sure I include some of the extra names. And it just popped into my head. I guess I'm working on Pokemon and Genshin still. That's a thing. And we still got one or two more Baja videos that we're planning on doing, plus Air Zivia. I actually got to talk to Ethis and see when he'll be good to go for that, but that should be coming in the next week or two. But anyway, thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon for supporting the channel. Like I said, it's not any exclusive content. There's nothing special about my Patreon. It's literally just, I guess, like a backpack for the YouTube channel, I suppose. That's all it's for. But thank you to anyone who's on there whose name is scrolling through the list. Hopefully when I get to editing, I remember to add these names, because we had quite a few standard sponsors. We had Sammy, Lone Lion, a Matthew, but then we also had a few elites in the form of Linnea and Boggs, and I'm not sure what tier this I think this person, okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so Sammy, Lone Lion, and Matthew for standard patrons, and Boggs and Linnea for premium patrons. Thank you for adding names to your list. Of course, we have our patrons of darkness, Khuja Cross on Jenova and Kurenai Oni, who have gone above and beyond for quite some time now. So it's pretty nutty. So thank you to everyone for supporting the channel over there. It's completely undeserved and is so low effort. I don't know why you bother, but sometimes you do. And I appreciate it, because we still produce YouTube videos for everybody. So that's all. You don't have to do it. You still get to watch all the same content here. So just enjoy the video and you're good. Speaking of enjoying the video, let's see what kind of questions you guys got for me this week. All right, this was the first one I saw. Hashtag Happy Mondays, Mister. Hello, hello, lollyho. I have a bonus of what everyone wants, more Indigo Stars. Great. Anyway, what are your thoughts on how the Bozia duels were implemented? Personally, I feel like I like the concept, but it falls flat with how many qualify and only one person getting through each time. Yeah, we spoke about this a lot on things like State of the Realm and on my live stream. I'm just of the opinion that I don't mind the way that it's done, but some sort of way to guarantee entry, either through like a stacking pity mechanic, one that makes it so every time you don't qualify, you're more likely to qualify subsequently for a 1v1, or by, why am I so off-center? It's really bugging me. I might just move my camera over. I'll just move myself here. I'll be like, wait, is this? No, that's not it. That's the background. Is it this? There we go. I'm not perfectly centered in either of these, so it bothers me. It's something like maybe, or like a pity system. So if you constantly don't qualify, that eventually your odds get better and better. Or making it so you can guarantee entry or even spawn the 1v1 with like 200 Bozia clusters or something like that. I think something like that would pretty much remedy the system altogether. But I know that Final Fantasy, it's weird because Final Fantasy 14 is we don't want to make you grind to participate in this content. We'll make you do a few set activities, maybe one or two to qualify. The problem is with how infrequently you qualify, you end up having to grind to qualify anyway. I got over 200 clusters in the time that I got all my 1v1s done. And if I could just trade 200 of those to have gotten a free chance, now obviously you don't win automatically, but to just get my own chance, that would have been great. But that's not how it ends up working. So I think that's the one thing they slipped up on, but the idea is excellent. And I hope we see more of it in the future, even if it's in the overworld with traditional fates going into 6.0. I find that it's just a compelling system that just needs some tweaking, and it'll be there. That's like almost every Final Fantasy 14 feature, though. That's not all that much of a surprise. But yeah, it's almost there, but I agree with you. It falls flat in that one regard. Very glad I have all mine done, so I don't need to worry about that anymore. Next one, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello there, Haps. Oh my god, that's a lot of text. We're doing relatively well. Got a bit of a strange and maybe vague question in a lot of text. A long time ago, I asked about rain anxieties. Okay, maybe find a static, not too huge, usually devote, but I started my first extremes. First was Titania, then Tsukiyomi. Did Innocence, surprised. No, didn't even hit Enrage there. Any first tries, nice. Then Hades came around, I felt helpless. Healer, I only had so many gimmicks, like maybe 5. Oh, yes. Yeah, this is something that's not all too abnormal. Hey, people wonder why I like going healer. Sometimes it's because I don't get the most difficult mechanics, and I get to heal the people who do, and I can assure that I'll do the very few that I have correctly. So this is about the frustrations of doing nothing wrong and also being unable to help it. I mean, that's what the party finder in regards to just people leaving groups. There are points where it's like you want to work through the group, you want to help the group learn, and in a learning party, that should be the general attitude. People are going to screw up. You're probably not going to clear it on this lockout. But at some point, people hit a wall, even in learning parties, where they go, this isn't happening. We're not even learning anything. We're just dying to the same thing over and over. And it doesn't seem like anyone's even trying to improve in any way. And that's when you leave. That's it. I mean, that's all you can do. I mean, that's part of the experience of playing with the party finder. You're going to have learning parties that improve and get better and get to the new mechanic and make it a little further in the fight. And then you're going to have ones that don't and disband. It's just a matter of having the patience. And when things like that happen, I find it's really helpful to look at ways you can be improving your gameplay up to that point. Maybe you find that you're casting too many heals. Like you notice, oh, actually, why do I cast that extra heal there every time? Like, yeah, it tops everyone off, but like there's not any more damage for like another 15, 20 seconds. And like we'll regen, or I'll have an size there. You start looking at things like that to improve. And that's what eventually makes you an FF Logs player sooner or later. That sense of self-improvement takes you to FF Logs, and at least using it for your own personal gain, as opposed to using it for generally what it's considered to be used for in the rest of the community. So that would be the big thing, I'd say. Accept that some things are out of your control, and if the group's not improving, focus on how you can still be improving. And if you think you're 100% perfect, then that just means you'll be leaving parties like that all faster. If they get stuck in a wall, and they like if a group gets stuck on one mechanic for a whole lockout, and it's like not a very hard mechanic, it's not very late, you feel like you've advanced past that point, it's not something that you signed up for the group, then don't feel bad to move to another one that more fits your current progress, your current experience, because that's the only way you're going to eventually get through to a full-on victory in the encounter. What can I do if statics are too serious and time-locked? I mean, that's just how it is. Maybe it's not for you. I mean, there is a point where you have to consider if statics are not a thing that you can possibly commit to, and the party finder is ruining your life. If there's no way to meet a compromise there, then maybe you just don't do it, or maybe you take a step back and maybe come back another time when maybe fights are fresher and there's more people willing to learn for longer, or you have more patience for people and their shenanigans. But there's nothing else you can do. It's out of your control, and the sooner you accept that, the better off you'll be. All right, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hello and greetings, fellow adventurer haps. Hope you're having a chill day / morning / night. I hope the same for you, and my phone just went off, so I wonder what that's all about. Let's just leave that in the video. Oh, Blood of Zeus is coming to Netflix on October 27th. Oh, thanks for throwing my focus off for the video for that. We're going to leave that in. Recently I had a friend come to play 14. They loved A Realm Reborn the whole way through. Wow. That is unlikely. Okay. Massively. They have one major issue. Then I came to find out this major issue, new players. Due to the fact of getting Mount... yeah, I see where this is going. Yeah, you go into Heavensward after being able to fly throughout all of Realm Reborn, and you actually have to go through the system. I think they will go back and rethink Heavensward flying at some point. They have to know that, because I had this exact same fear. Without experiencing it myself, I had the fear that this would happen. That new players would go through Realm Reborn, get flying as soon as they beat 2.0, and then... that would be it. I'd like to say, I'm going to be honest with you, the alternate solution is they don't give you flying in Heavensward till after you beat the final 3.0 boss, which may create just the same problem. At the very least, you're earning flying while you're going through, because anytime you completely finish a zone, if you've done the 5 quests and you've found the 10 logs, literally almost every flying unlock should be the very last quest you complete in the main story before moving on. I don't think in Heavensward there's a zone where that isn't the case. The only downside is that places like Sea of Clouds, where you only access the bottom half of it the first time through, and then the second time through you access the top half of it. That one, you're not finished until you finish the top half, so you wouldn't unlock flying until you finish the top half. But that's literally the only other solution, is just when you finish the level 60 MSQ, 70 MSQ, 80 MSQ, the very final boss of the original patch, that they unlock flying then, because that's what A Realm Reborn does. And I don't think that necessarily addresses the issue people have of going from being able to fly to not being able to fly, but at the same time, that's supposed to be part of the exploration. And they've also changed a lot of the ether currents, so that other than a couple across the entirety of the expansions, plural, with the locks still being one of the worst offenders in Stormblood, they're pretty much on the beaten path. So you have to ignore them pretty hard. As long as you're pressing the compass, it's kind of hard not to. I usually take 10 minutes and just get them all anytime I take a new character through. So I see it as a non-issue and an acknowledged issue at the same time, because the only other solution doesn't really address much at all. It just unlocks it later with less effort, as opposed to unlocking sometimes earlier with more effort. So it's a tough call. I'd be okay with either or, but I fully understand the frustration of going from flying for all of your Realm Reborn experience to not being able to fly. But that's going to happen no matter what. No matter what solution they take, that's going to happen. So the solution's not going to go well either way. Hashtag Happy Mr. Mondays. Hey, Haps, how you doing? I'm feeling generous of a burger. I was actually going to make a burger for dinner. I made a nice Cajun chicken marinade, homemade. Just mix a few spices in there with some salt, some pepper, some smoked olive oil, so a little bit of dried thyme, a few different things, and then just like I had some like chili powder here and some cayenne here and some paprika here, and I had like one or two other things. Just took a bunch of spices together, threw them together. Turned out pretty good with the smoked olive oil. But I'm gonna do, I think, a burger tonight. Just a normal burger, just salt, pepper, ground beef, cheese, ketchup, pickles, the usual. So now that we've talked about that, let's talk about Annihilation, because I see that's what you're talking about. I'm at Annihilation on Uwu and Quick March and Ukab. Hoping to clear Uwu. Do you ever have a point in the fight where you felt stuck and either had to make changes to your self-team or approach in order to prog? In Ultimate, no, there's never really a point where I feel uber stuck. Ukab is kind of not fair. I naturally progressed Ukab up until about the third or fourth trio. Then a friend of mine made a group that was mixed. Some people had never beaten it, but had progged to some degree, and some people had beaten it a single time. So there was like a mix of like experience, like people who had only done it 3 months prior and people who still hadn't beaten it, like myself, because I didn't have a static for it. And then he had beaten it like 40 times. I don't even know how many times he'd actually beaten it, but way too many is the answer. And so I never had that issue because we had people who had beaten it on the team. So that means that the experience is there, the explanations are there. There's rarely a point where you get stuck. Uwu, I'm not going to lie, the only thing that I ever feared in Uwu was predation. I hate it. My eyes can barely see colors properly now. Gauging all those AoE sections can be kind of tough, but generally I found a rhythm to it eventually. Actually, what's funny? I went from being able to do predation really well to us actually doing a lazy method for predation that I don't think works anymore because you don't have the mitigation for it, where we'd super mitigate predation. We'd take the second part of Ifrit's charge deliberately. That would regenerate we'd like use an LB1 and then we'd regenerate it by taking the hit, and we'd actually gain LB from the whole process. Actually, I think it was an LB2, but regardless, and then I got worse at dodging it because I got used to doing that. So when we went back and did it later, I had a harder time with predation because I got so used to being lazy that that's probably the only thing, but I never really had to make too much of a change. I just had to pay closer attention to my surroundings. So that's all that was. In T, it was kind of the same thing. I think the hardest part of that fight is phase 2, is the brute cruise phase. I don't think Alexander or Wormhole is that hard. I never had to make any adjustments for those. Same with Perfect Alexander. Phase 1, nothing there that I really had to adjust. So yeah, predation actually in Uwu's the only one where I really felt like I had to make some kind of adjustment in order to really fix, I guess, a fundamental issue I had with performing a mechanic, and it was something really simple like predation. So other than that, I just try to quantify things. I try to envision them. I try to repeat what I'm supposed to do out loud over and over again. The main reason why I didn't have any issues with Wormhole is literally the day I got to it, when I went to bed that night, I literally repeated all of the strategy over and over again. I just laid in bed and said, 1 goes here, 2 goes here, 3 goes here, 4 goes here. And from that point on, in like the next 30 attempts, I only screwed up once. And it was actually on one of the easiest ones, which is ironic because I guess I was probably overthinking overthinking on the hard ones, underthinking on the easy ones. That actually ended up being pretty funny. So no, it's just practice at that point. I didn't have to change perspective or anything. So unfortunately, I don't have any great advice for this. And good luck on finishing up both Ukab and Uwu in this case. Hopefully by the time you ask your next question, I believe. Man, I just scrolled past somebody's comment and it said in regards to S, up arrow 3, so S to the 3rd power. And I was reading it and I'm like, what the heck are they talking about? It took me so long to figure out it was Stone Sky C. I feel so dumb. Wanted to make mention of that. Yo, you guys got a lot of text in your questions this week. Let's check it out. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Congrats on finishing the 1v1s. Hope the rest of your week was good. Solid. Until I get this shiny Lugia, though, I'm in a perpetual hell. And my beard is starting to get long again to the point where my nose itches when I talk too much. I started playing 14 with the launch of 2.0. Never stuck around long. Even made it to cap in any expansion. Until Shadowbringers, that is. Heard the immense praise that it got. Definitely in love with the game now. Wish I'd discovered it sooner. But with that, here's my question. Do you have any advice for a newish player to get more into the social aspects of the game? I've been playing solo the whole time, and I'd love to find an FC and maybe a static to do harder content with. Long history with WoW, and the random FC invites remind me of the horrible guilds. Yeah, it's not good either way. I hated those. I hate them in WoW. I hate them in 14 too. A lot of the time it is just about looking through groups that are advertising to be social or advertising for content. Party Finder's pretty common for that, but even still, you still get kind of the same situation you're getting now. And some of the systems they've added haven't really improved the searching ability as much as I think Square Enix would have liked them to have in regards to the community system, the community finder. I mean, maybe, you know what? Maybe the community finder is right for you. They have a little campaign going on right now at the community finder to encourage people to use it. And so there might actually be something on there like a free company that suits your needs. Try it out. I don't have any feedback on it. I haven't used it. I don't ever believe these systems work that well in the West, but maybe this one is. Maybe this one's the crown jewel. Aloha. My cat keeps opening the door and I speak really loudly and my girlfriend's trying to rest on the weekend and my cat makes it a damn problem. So I'm going to finish answering this question. I'm going to close the damn door. But yeah, there's nothing obvious. I mean, it's literally just either use a community finder or shout or look through the party finder itself. And that's about all you can do. Just like the way healers are now. I don't know. I see those complaints come and go. I like healing now. I heal more now than I ever have before. So I don't think my insight is super useful. I don't agree with a lot of what people say about it. So I'm fine with it. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey Haps, thanks for the Bazia guides. Glad you enjoyed them. Do you think they'll ever introduce dispels that roll actually give enemies dispellable buffs outside of Bazia and Narika? No. I'm just going to answer that. Yeah, you've already made mention they got rid of One Ilm Punch. It was used in a few situations, but never anything super major. I could think of a few hunts where One Ilm Punch was useful in its previous iteration. The big thing is no. The big thing they've tried to get away from is ever forcing you to pick a specific role for a specific reason. Now, obviously, you want tanks, healers, and DPS, and that's kind of where they want your decision-making to end. They want to encourage you to at least branch out and bring multiple types of DPS by increasing raid damage. But after that, that's about it. Like, yeah, you might get like a magic damage reduction from this one, and a physical damage reduction from that one, and a reprisal from the tank, and you might get those things, but they want to stop entirely mandatory mechanics from coming from a specific role. And thus they'll probably never do anything like that. I'd expect it to continue in exploration content. Heck, even in the Save the Queen, the 24 and 48 man that's coming out later, I suspect that'll still use lost actions, so you'll probably still want it for that. But for any of the traditional 8 or 24 man content we're used to as the kind of core gameplay loop with the raids, no, I wouldn't expect they'll ever do anything like that. As for crowd control, pretty much the same deal. They don't want to make any of it mandatory. I mean, technically, ranged physical can help with crowd control. If there's ever a fight that requires stuns, tanks are usually well equipped for it, especially Paladin. If there's ever a slow or a heavy that does work, ranged physical can already do that. And if it is relevant, cool, but they're not going to force it to be relevant for the sake of it being relevant. It's just going to come down to an individual mechanic and how they envision the fight feeling and how it's standing out from other fights. If you just start throwing buffs that need to be dispelled on this fight and adds that need to be heavied here or slowed here or stunned here in every single fight, then it stops feeling like you're really bringing a unique utility and the fight has kind of no identity to just, well, this is like mechanic in the game and we don't want that to be the mechanic for every fight. So a lot of the answer to this question is just no, kind of. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey there, Happy, you doing alright? I'm doing alright. You doing alright? I'm doing alright. Did you ever get that fuck that hoe, lolly hoe t-shirt? No, I said somebody should make that a t-shirt. That's Sly's quote. That's on him. Don't ask me. Here's my question for real. What do you think about the possibility of a final Eden boss being Ultimecia? I mean, this is a question we get all the time. And I've stated on plenty of State of the Realms and live streams and even these weekly Q&As that, yeah, I pretty much figure that's going to be the case. It's going to be an Ultimecia equivalent. I do think the final boss is still going to be Eden Prime. I just think it'll be junction to whatever the Ultimecia equivalent is going to be. Whether or not they explicitly name her as such, I don't think they will, but it'll be implied well enough I feel. I expect a lot of familiar Final Fantasy VIII storylines to tread through the final Eden tier, though. I know you can't see it on the screen, but this one does say hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey Haps, hope you're doing well. Hope the same for you. Got a few questions about Bazia. Probably going to sound like a noob, but I'm without a PC at the moment and have to play on the PS4. Are cluster farms literally just killing normal mobs to get items? It's a little more specific than that. Cluster farms are specifically farming Magitech monsters, which are largely believed to be part of spawning critical engagements, and especially the 1v1s altogether. They just have higher drop rates on clusters. Actually, their drop rates on memories are pretty good. I've got so many memories from farming Bazia that I don't ever want to go near a Heavensward Fate for it. Yeah, you could guarantee it, but man, is it so much worse to do the fates in terms of an actual interest level than it is to go in there and either level or get lock boxes or get fragments or watch people do 1v1s or join critical engagements or I make more money, I get more done, or I have more options to get things done than doing stupid Heavensward Fates. And honestly, once you stop just doing every skirmish and you actually focus on like spawning through, going through the spawns for the Magitech mobs, the rate at which you earn those memories goes way, way up. What is Casher and how's it work in terms of, I've got entire guides on these things. I would make time to watch that because unfortunately explaining that all in this is not really a proper setting because I already have a format with which that's more approachable. And the amount of information I give you here, you just have to ask more questions anyway. So I'd highly recommend to check out that video and hopefully that'll answer everything you need. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. I only started hello to you too. There's our first person who doesn't say hello, which is funny because I can already see how courteous they are by the end of this, but they didn't say hello. When we started playing 14 this year, I noticed there are a lot of people complaining about lack of gill syncs, myself included. But during the leveling process, I came across a few recurring gill syncs that most players avoid by simply leveling all crafting classes. There could definitely be more gill syncs, but that might be difficult to maintain unless BIS was only through gill. Beyond that, is there any way to target veteran players with gill syncs? So I'd like to make a distinction here. There's a distinction between a veteran player and a player that has gill. I know players that don't play a lot that sit on 50, 60, 100 mil. I know people who do hardcore raiding that are literally bitch broke the whole time because they don't play enough outside of the raids in order to earn any gill, and they always have to go to their free company, or they always have to go to a friend and say, can I borrow 10 million gill? Can I just farm you the materials so you make this? Or a lot of them don't go out of their way to make gill. So how do you make gill syncs that target veteran players? You make rare items that cost a ton of gill. World of Warcraft does this. There's a few mounts that are just a ridiculous amount of gold. And people who are like your average player, for some reason, struggled with making gold in that game. I don't know how. But for the people who play hardcore, there are people who do nothing but gold farms in World of Warcraft. And they literally just do it to buy their own time to play the game. Since that, people can buy the tokens and they can buy it with gold. And you could argue that maybe one of those is a solution here. I'm not a super big fan of the whole Gil token, or I guess the gold token from World of Warcraft where you buy subtime with gold, but somebody has to buy it in the first place. So it's basically like buying gold through Blizzard. It gets kind of iffy, even if it eventually does have to go through a player. And it also doesn't remove Gil from it doesn't actually remove gold from the economy. It's just something for them to spend it on. So it's not even a sink now that I don't know why I'm talking about it at this point. But you just have to make items that are something only people with a lot of money can afford. And even if it's not a lot, like if it's 10 million gil and there's players with, 50, 60, 100, 200. I know people with billions of gil. It's nothing to them. You're never going to have enough gil syncs for those people. The good news is those people don't actually put their gil back into the economy very often. It's the people who are constantly making and spending gil that are mostly generating it and also putting it out into the market. So you actually need to hit kind of like the average player experience in order to do it. So you kind of want a few items that may be 10, 20, 50 million gil, things that could be considered prestigious. And if you have them, it's kind of a display of wealth. People like that. People like to have that I stand out in the crowd kind of feel in an MMO, and they're willing to farm gil in order to get it. It also encourages people without a lot of gil to maybe consider farming gil, and then they get interested in, taking gil. Like they sell items on the board to make the gil to buy this item, and then all the gil is gone. You have to consider that. making housing more widely available, complete revamp of the system. The more people who are interacting with the system, and the more people who are encouraged to interact with the system, the more guild disappears. There's a lot of things they could do in terms of furnishings and upgrades and all sorts of tangential systems that could take guild out of the game if housing was more widely available. If apartments could be upgraded from small to medium to large, so that way you could go through a little process there and actually spend some of your own guild. That takes a little bit out. And as new players come in, they pick up new housing, they pick up apartments, they move the guild off the game, and that keeps things a little bit more in check. There's all sorts of things they can do. I don't think we'll see any of those things anytime in the near future, though. So I expect that guild will probably continue to accumulate, continue to inflate, and that it's going to continue to be a problem. And that was actually the last question I'm going to take as kind of like the non-lightning round. A lot of the remaining portions are comments about last week's questions, something about like the memories of the dying and like kind of the headcanon for that. There's people commenting on some of my Genshin Impact and Klee comments, or Castrum Enrage times, the resin system for Genshin, which is obviously always a hot topic. What else? I feel like there was a question. Oh, there was a lore question I didn't want to take because we've been doing pretty good of keeping spoiler-free questions here for the most part. And when I do answer them, I kind of answer them ambiguously in a sense where I don't like say, hey, this is it. But to answer, there is somebody who had a lore question. In order to answer that, the answer to the first part of your question is probably yes. The second question is we don't know. The third question is a certain yes, based on the events throughout post A Realm Reborn and even early Heavensward. And then the rest we don't know. There's still some questions that we have, and hopefully we'll be answering those in the remaining of the story. So look back at your own question if you were waiting for it, and apply those answers in order to each of the question marks, and you should be okay. Yeah, and then some people commenting on, I forgot last week I made mention, dude, Stay the Realm with all these ads is so freaking ridiculous, man. Literally, it's every 3 minutes for the first hour. I still can't believe it. Like, you guys, I forgot about it because I fixed it for the last, I have to fix it for every Stay of the Realm individually, and it's so annoying. But I fix it, and then I forgot about it, and I just have to remember it the next Stay of the Realm. But it is so annoying, and I have no settings I can adjust in order to stop it from doing that. And I hate it. I hate how many freaking ads are on that. So hopefully I can stay on top of it, because if not, then people aren't going to not listen to it, and that's going to be upsetting because I don't want people to have to suffer through that many ads. Anyway, on that note, that's going to be the wrap-up for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. If you have a question, be sure to ask it on next week's episode in the comment section of the video below, and we'll get to it as we always do, or at least we'll try to. But thanks everyone for watching. Thank you again for tolerating me, and I will see all of you next week. Until then, take care.